When you're drawing, it's really important to consider the forms, of course, okay? And we've talked about them a lot. We've got the sphere, drawing it with latitudinal lines, and longitudinal lines. And we've got the cone. We love the cone with latitudinal lines and longitudinal lines. And we've got the cylinder, awesome cylinder, with, again, lines like this, and lines like that, and maybe lines like this. And these are forms that you should become really accustomed to. Of course, there's the prism, which is a super important one to learn too. The prism, right? Not prison, but prism, okay? And there's the pyramid. These are all fantastic, and the polygons, but polyhedra. So now, what we're going to talk about is compound forms. So what do you do when you see something that's like this? Holy cow, this beautiful little brandy snifter, okay? Well, this is called a compound form, okay? It's a compound form. And when we think about compound forms, it's when you combine things together. Like a sphere is combined with a cone. Okay, so when we combine a sphere and a cone, we might get what looks like a badminton birdie, right? You get these things, or like the tip of a rocket, which was a ball with a cone wrapped around it, right? So we get the tip of a rocket here. Okay, that's a compound form. On a wine glass, you might have a spheroid like this, kind of coming down to a stem. And over here you might have the bottom here, and the bottom here might be a very flat looking cone that's bending up into the stem. Okay, so this is a spheroid. What's a spheroid? A spheroid is like a sphere, but it's more of an ovally shape. So it's a spheroid. We see tons of spheroids in nature, and spheroids are really, really good to understand because, again, if you want to understand the world around you, understand the forms, know their names, say, ah, I see you, spheroid, right? And then you'll know that you say, oh, look at Mr. Spheroid. Somebody cut Mr. Spheroid in half and turned him into a brandy snifter, right? So, or the tip of a bomb, okay? So spheroids are really great, and you could take a spheroid and you could turn it into this shape here. What the heck happened to the spheroid? Well, really, this is a compound form we see a lot, and this is kind of like the inside of a donut. If we had a toroid here, right, and we cut a piece of it off of the donut, so we just had this. If you could see this, or maybe I'll lengthen it down here. So we had it like this. That's why it's good to draw contour lines. Contour, remember Lake Schmuckatelli? This is Lake Schmuckatelli. This is my favorite lake to go camping along, Lake Schmuckatelli. This is my favorite little island out here. Okay, this is called the island of Vinny on Lake Schmuckatelli. And you can see on Lake Schmuckatelli the little contour lines where they're trying to show you form. Well, we use contour lines when we want to understand forms we see. So if we take a form like this, the outline of it, we can draw some contour lines to show what's going on, right? Holy cow, what's going on with this? Draw longitudinal lines, go all the way around, even behind it. Remember, you can draw lines, you could be not Captain America, but Superman, and you can draw lines that, so I'll show a torus for instance. You can show lines that go all the way through something. You can just pulverize something with lines, okay? When we talked about using a spiral, pulverize it with lines. Really use your X-ray vision and try to see something different ways. See that? Try to see it all different kinds of ways. So, what's a compound form? An example of a compound form would be if you had a truncated cone, a cone where the tip was chopped off, right? And we add a cylinder to it, right? And then we add half of a sphere. And on top of that, we add maybe another cylinder, a flatter cylinder or a shorter cylinder. And on top of that, we add another top of a sphere up here. And down here we can add, I don't know, maybe another longer cylinder here. So I make these lines parallel, this line, this line, this line, this line, this line, and this line. So I go like this, right? These longitudinal lines are emphasizing the surface. Emphasizing the surface. You want to emphasize the surface of something. So that's an example of these compound forms. So you can, your eye sees that, you recognize that that, aha, is different than this. Aha, is different than this. There's different, these little eyes. You're breaking it down and seeing the different forms. And that's a real important part about thinking, is if you can see, for instance, a bottle. With a cork in it. We can start at the base of the bottle here. Let's say, I'll give you like more complicated. If it's a champagne bottle or a wine bottle, it might be a dimple in there. Okay, so it's going on this form. Well, we can just break it down to simply things like this right now. We can say, this guy here is what? That's going to be a cylinder, right? We understand that's a cylinder. Okay, and this guy here is like a trumpet bell shape. You know, trumpet. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Right? Trumpet. And this is the trumpet shape, or make it grosser, a plunger shape when you want to clean your toilet out, you know, it's stuffed up. So like a plunger shape here. And then, of course, this is another cylinder here. And what's a cork? That's right, Mary from Nebraska. A cork is a truncated cone, right? It's a truncated cone. And down here, this little bell shape is, Jeremy from Wyoming just named it. He said it's a portion of a donut, or what do you call it, Jeremy? Yeah, a torus. So it's really a donut shape inside that wine bottle where they dimpled it up. Like this is a profile of it, like that. Profile means a side view, right? So they dimpled that glass up. Sometimes people think it's a cheat how much wine is actually in the bottle. I don't know. Maybe it makes the bottle stronger. So you see how I broke up that wine bottle into different forms, okay? So that's called I call it a hybrid or compound form, where we take things, the most classic example is the rocket ship, where you have the command module and the service module. And you have the second stage and the first stage, right, of the Saturn rocket. And I think there's actually more stages than that. But you get the idea that this command module is a cone with a kind of a dish on the bottom. I think it's a parabolic dish on the bottom, right? And there's a cone. And on top is kind of a rounded area. It's almost like a spherical area here. And then underneath it is another truncated cone. Truncated cone. The cone's been chopped off. And underneath that's another cylinder. It keeps going on and on. A rocket engine is not usually either a truncated cone or a truncated ovaloid. An ovaloid or a spheroid, what do you want to call it there. And they chop it off and make it into a rocket. I mean, that's not how they make it, but that's, you get the idea, right? Okay, so that was today's lesson on combining forms to make different things, and we'll see you next time. Adios from luxblox.com. This is Mike.